Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Prophet Podcast. Today, we have a great show. We're going over sophomore wide receivers, running backs, and boom or bust. Do we think that these sophomores are going to break out and become full fantasy studs, or are they going to fizzle out and bust? And I also, it's very exciting, I've got a co-host. JT Rhunke is here co-hosting. Tell him a little bit about yourself.
Hey, how's it going, guys? Yeah, my name's JT Rhunke. I'm from the Nashville area. I cover the Tennessee Titans locally for a kind of a sports publication called Broadway Sports Media here in the Nashville area. But also, I'm just an insane fantasy football nut. Like, I love it, live and breathe it. So super excited and honored to be here and talk some ball with y'all.
It's very exciting. A lot of you have wanted for a while another voice, someone to say, Calvin, stop talking so much about Travis Etienne. So I brought someone in to tell me no more Travis Etienne hype. Although what early reports are saying, he's looking pretty good.
He does look good. And that's actually what I did in the interview to become the co-host. I just went up to him and I said, Travis Etienne sucks. And so we're good from the get-go. But yeah, I like the early reports and how they're using him. I also think Tank Bigsby behind him, the rookie, is going to be really good. But yeah, I mean, maybe temper expectations on Travis Etienne this year.
We'll get into that at some point, I am sure. But today's show, we've got sophomore, boom or bust. We've got a pretty full docket. Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, Treylon Burks, Drake London, Jahan Dotson, and many more. We're going to be going through them and telling you if we think they are going to boom or if they are going to bust. So without further ado, Garrett Wilson, currently being drafted in the 207 spot on sleeper platforms. Last year, it was a great rookie season, especially considering the quarterback play he was dealing with. Joe Flacco, Mike White, it was a disaster, and he still put up a very solid fantasy season. Personally, I think it's going to be a boom season. What do you think?
I want to say boom so bad, but I know also just like how hot of a take it is to say that he's going to bust. And I don't want to take the middle, but I'm erring on the side of bust for a couple of reasons. One is just that there are a lot of mouths to feed in New York,
yes,
especially with their now interest in Dalvin Cook, who they might sign. I mean, I'm just looking at the depth chart here, and I totally forgot, like, Mecole Hardman is on this team now too. Like, you have, outside of Garrett Wilson, you have Allen Lazard, Mecole Hardman, Corey Davis, Randall Cobb. Just like, there's so many mouths to feed on that offense, especially like in the tight end room as well. Tyler Conklin and CJ Uzomah, like they're Aaron Rodgers didn't bring over his two best pals and Randall Cobb and Allen Lazard for a reason, you know? And what worries me is that I think there could be a chance that, like, you find yourself a little bit frustrated with Garrett Wilson, especially for where you're drafting him. I think you're drafting him to be a top 10 wide receiver, but there might be some weeks where Aaron Rodgers is just having really good chemistry with Allen Lazard, and that just frustrates you as an owner.
I definitely see that, and it's the sort of thing I think that he might have a lot of yards, but the touchdowns might go somewhere else, especially with Dalvin Cook there, especially if Breece Hall actually is healthy. There might not be the touchdown upside, and it is something important looking at the ADP. 207. That isn't a discount. You're not drafting someone with a potential breakout. He has to boom for it to be worth it. And anything short of, a top 8 season at this point, given all the hype, the rising ADP, I think it will be a little higher by the time drafts are coming. It's going to be harder and harder for Garrett Wilson to meet the expectations. So I understand the concerns. Personally, though, I feel like his explosiveness paired with Aaron Rodgers, I love it. I love it. And if he stays at 207, I think I'm okay with it. But do you think his ADP is going to continue to rise? Do you think he'll get higher in the second?
I think there's a possibility. I mean, You're looking. I don't think it's gotten to the point where you can, like, consider drafting him over guys like Stephon Diggs and CeeDee Lamb and some of those guys on, like, the turn in your drafts into round 2. But, like, could it get there with, like, preseason training camp hype? Like, maybe. And that I feel like 207 for me is like the ceiling of where I would draft him personally.
He's going 1 or 3 picks right now on sleeper leagues before Jalen Waddle. I think Jalen Waddle has as much or more upside, and I might actually like the floor there more. I know it was inconsistent, but there are fewer mouths to feed. So right next to Amon-Ra St. Brown, those two guys, Amon-Ra and Jalen Waddle. Do you like Garrett Wilson more than any of those guys, or are you taking Amon-Ra and Waddle before Garrett Wilson over them?
I think I'm taking Amon-Ra before Garrett Wilson. I think I'd do St. Brown, Garrett Wilson, Jalen Waddle. And that's mainly just going on my personal opinion that volume is king. And like I would take Amon-Ra and Garrett Wilson, who I know is going to get at least like a substantial, like good value of the volume from a week to week, instead of you're playing the gamble with those Miami Dolphins, man. Like, do they go off this week? Does Tua stay hurt? Does he get another concussion? Like, it's just a little bit more volatile. I feel like I'd be more comfortable taking Garrett Wilson over Jalen Waddle right now. But I do think to a degree that you are correct that Waddle does have the absolute like breakout upside.
So Garrett Wilson for me is a boom, but watch the ADP. If it gets much higher at all, I'm not considering it a boom. What's your official summary of Garrett Wilson?
I'm gonna do a slight bust because there are concerns. We also, Garrett Wilson with the ankle injury, something we didn't even bring up yet. And obviously, I think Robert Saleh said that that's not a huge concern, but already already at training camp, it's hard to to see that come up, and you have to wonder how's this going to affect him going into the rest of training camp.
All right, this is another wide receiver, sophomore, with the potential to break out. He was really good last year, very similar season to Garrett Wilson. Also had horrible quarterback play. Chris Olave currently being drafted at the 304 spot on sleeper drafts. Boom or bust? You go first because I know my answer. I'm
all in on Chris Olave. I am huge boom potential for this guy. Just I think the opportunity is there, especially in the deep yards, like the big time plays. He was 4th in the league last year in deep targets here with 29. It had a crazy target share, 26.7, which I think is like 15th in the league. This guy now is paired with a quarterback who loves to throw the deep ball already. And outside of like maybe a return for Michael Thomas, like, does he come back at all? I don't know. Like, that's to be seen, but he is the undoubted wide receiver 1 in this offense, with Alvin Kamara not maybe playing the first half of the season. Like, who else really is there to throw the ball to? So I think Chris Olave, especially at the 304 right there, is due for a massive season.
Yep, 26% target share. He ranked 10th in the target rates. Air yards super high, air yard share super high. Deep targets 29, which was 4th. It just what held him back was quarterback play. You put in a much better quarterback, you don't have to overthink it. That's my answer. And at 304, that's a good price. That doesn't feel like you're drafting him at his ceiling.
I think you're drafting him with the expectations to be a comfortable wide receiver 1 for you, maybe for high end wide receiver 2, but you have the faith in the confidence that he can be a top 8 receiver.
Let's just say Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson, the fact that they did what they did last year with those quarterbacks is it's unreal. The more I look back, I see he put up 130 yards with Andy Dalton. That's just that alone.
And the mangled corpse of Jameis Winston. Gosh. And like both these guys are getting massive quarterback upgrades. And so like I am a little concerned with Garrett Wilson's price, but like Chris Olave, I'm hammering that 304 every single time, not even thinking about it.
For sure. So I think we are at an agreement. Chris Olave, massive boom this season. The next one, you're a big Titans fan, so I want to hear your take. His ADP is very low now because they just signed DeAndre Hopkins. Treylon Burks, 7-11 is where he's going. Boom or bust? I'm going to put it right out there. Bust. I don't trust the quarterbacks. I think Hopkins is the guy. The tight end,
Chigakonkwo, man, that's my boy. We call him on our show here that when I cover the Titans, we call him last year the prince that was promised, because we are so, and I mean Danny Kelly on his show The Ringer has both labeled me and my podcast host over there, Easton Freeze, as big Chig guys. So I'm all in on Chigakonkwo, man.
And he's a beast, and I just don't think Treylon Burks is gonna have a massive role. I don't think he's going to be non-existent, but I think that they knew what they had in Treylon Burks, and they went out and got DeAndre Hopkins. And at 7-11, sure, you're not paying a massive price for him, but I don't see a path to fantasy glory. I don't know about you.
Here's the case for Treylon Burks that I've been cooking. So if you watch DeAndre Hopkins kind of tape from last year, you know that he's not going to play the X outside role anymore. He's going to be more, especially in this offense, he's going to be more of the Y, kind of the flanker wide receiver in this offense. And I think that they brought DeAndre Hopkins in because that wide receiver room is so bad outside of Treylon Burks and maybe like Kyle Phillips if he can stay healthy. But they are going to make Treylon Burks the wide receiver one, despite DeAndre Hopkins. He's going to be the X. He's going to be the deep ball guy. He's going to be making the big plays, where DeAndre Hopkins is certainly going to get his fair share of targets. But I think Treylon Burks plays a kind of a role like Marquise Brown did last year for Arizona in tandem with DeAndre Hopkins. And so in the 7th round, I think I think it's honestly still like pretty well priced there at the kind of last pick in the 7th round. You're buying this guy to be a wide receiver 2 and hoping that the target share that he does get can kind of make him a viable, better wide receiver 2.
Well, do you trust the quarterback though?
I do.
That's the biggest thing for me.
I think Ryan Tannehill is so underrated by like anybody outside of Nashville. We talk about it all the time. If everyone outside of Nashville doesn't really know what's going on in Nashville, and it's like we are trying to scream from the rooftops down here in Nashville, like, guys, Ryan Tannehill has had success. He's not this game winner that's going to take you all the way, but he has success. He is a good quarterback.
But is it full guarantee he's starting the whole season? Because if it's fully guaranteed, this Tannehill and that play action offense that they used with Derrick Henry, and if that's guaranteed, then yeah, I like Burks where he is. But I get scared that they're gonna put in Will Levis. And I went to UK. I watched every Will Levis home game. I was there.
There you go.
And it doesn't make me have confidence. I don't want Will Levis throwing my wide receiver the ball. Now, 7-11, the people going near him, Jordan Addison, Jahan Dotson, they're all gambles. There's no one at that point in the draft that is, for sure going to produce for fantasy. But I worry about quarterback changes. Do you think that that's something that could happen this season, or do you think it's going to be Tannehill?
There are two situations in which Ryan Tannehill isn't the quarterback this season for the full year. One is if he just gets hurt again, which is just really impossible to predict. And two, if this team starts 1-5, 1-6 out of the gate when they go to London and have that bye week and they've only won 1 or 2 games, I think you can start to make a case that maybe we should be sellers at the deadline and we need to see what we have in Will Levis. And that's pretty much the only real possibility I see Will Levis, or to that extent Malik Willis, playing this year. I don't think that the Titans brought in they didn't bring in DeAndre Hopkins to be a just average 500 team. They want to compete because they know they can probably win this division still. And so I have the utmost confidence that Ryan Tannehill will be the starter for all 16 games, as long as he's healthy, 16, 17 games.
Well, I'll let you have Treylon Burks. I'll let you have him. I'll take Jahan Dotson at the turn. At the end of the season, we'll see who was right. I just can't get on board with him this season. I think talent-wise, I like him, but this year, fantasy-wise, I don't think I'm in.
And it's always with outside of Derrick Henry, like Tennessee Titans are just an ugly team to draft, man. And I already see it with like DeAndre Hopkins. Like DeAndre Hopkins was like, his ADP was so low because like he was a free agent and then he signed with the Titans, and I feel like he did not get that much of a jump in ADP at all. So I totally understand it but just seeing how this team over the offseason has kind of conducted their offseason strategy, I'm buying in on Treylon Burks.
It makes sense. Now the next one, I can't get in on it due to the worries I have at quarterback. Drake London, the next sophomore wide receiver, going 505, which isn't that late. I mean, Treylon Burks, you can at least argue he's going late enough that everyone's a gamble. Treylon Burks, though, middle of the 5th round, there are still some players that, I mean, DJ Moore, Terry McLaurin, Jerry Jeudy are all going right there in the 5th round. Jerry Judy's actually going after him by 2 picks on sleeper platforms. I am not in on Drake London this year. I don't see it happening. This is a team that everything they have done screams we want to run the ball. Arthur Smith, I mean, they ran the ball a lot and well with Algier and Cordero Patterson last year. They draft Bijan Robinson with the 8th overall pick. Drake London could be the best wide receiver in the world. I don't think he's going to see the volume. Where do you stand on Drake London?
It's a tough one because I was boom on Drake London, and now I'm like, you have solid reason to believe that it's just not going to be there. You don't draft Bijan Robinson with the 8th overall draft pick this offseason to not make that your featured part of your offense. I mean, Art Smith basically has his Derrick Henry now after being the offensive coordinator for the Tennessee Titans. He's like basically went out and he's like, okay, I'm going to go get my Derrick Henry. And so that's what he's gotten him. However, if there was a case to be made, I mean, if outside of like maybe like Kyle Pitts, who knows with Kyle Pitts, what we'll see. But like who else is, if they are going to throw the ball, like, are you really going to give like Olamide Zaccheaus like a huge target share? Like, I don't see it, man. So, and I'm quietly sipping the Kool-Aid on Desmond Ritter a little bit. I don't think he's going to be that. I don't think he's going to be as bad as people say. I mean, if you look at his last 2 games that he played in weeks 17 and 18, especially week 18, he had a actually really good game. He 19 completions on 30 attempts for 224 yards and 2 touchdowns with a quarterback rating of 108. So like, if that is hopefully what you get out of Desmond Ritter every single week is about 200 to 200 yards or so and like a touchdown. Like, I think the majority of that is going to be going to Drake London, which is why but at
505 with Jerry Jeudy there, with Jerry Jeudy at 508,
there are more enticing options. I think I'd take Jerry Jeudy over him personally right now. Terry McLaurin is interesting. I feel like Desmond Ritter is a slightly more known commodity than Sam Howell. So I think I'm still shading Drake London there. But like,
no, I agree
all those guys at that kind of 505 range, it's really like you're hoping that these guys can give you the stable wide receiver 2 value that you're drafting them to give you.
I'm looking at this 5th round. You got McLaurin, DJ Moore, Drake London, Jerry Jeudy, and Christian Watson and Chris Godwin. Those are the wide receivers being drafted in the 5th round right now. All those guys are great with quarterbacks who we have no idea what's going on.
They're all question marks, man. That is, I do not envy you looking for wide receivers in the 5th round right there. Like, that's when you start thinking, okay, let me take George Kittle, or let me take like a Darren Waller or something, and maybe go get my quarterback like a Lamar Jackson or a Joe Burrow there at the 5th round there, because like I don't really want to buy in because all these guys have massive question marks.
Some of them, one of them's gonna do it, but looking at the quarterbacks, it's gonna be so hard to predict. I guess my favorite would just be Jeudy, based on what we've seen Russell Wilson be able to do in the past. Kind of hoping that Sean Payton can somehow,
the most known commodity, I would think.
Whereas every other Jordan Love for Christian Watson, we have no clue. He could be fantastic. He could be not. We've never seen anything really apart from a game or two. So But that's where I am with Drake London is just I can't pull the trigger in the 5th round. If he was 7th, 6th round, going around like Michael Pittman or Marquise Brown, I'd do it, I think. But
I would have to
that
agree.
extra round is.
I think I've been kind of talking myself down from Drake London now, especially at that ADP. NFL wise player, I think good player.
Yeah.
Getting him in the 5th round, no. I'll see you next year.
He might be the new Terry McLaurin almost. Yeah.
He
Now,
might be.
the next one, this guy is why I will not be drafting Terry McLaurin in a single league this season. Sophomore wide receiver Jahan Dotson, ADP 801. Why would I draft Terry McLaurin 501 when I can get Terry McLaurin or Jahan Dotson 801? Over the back, like 5 games, their receptions, targets, touchdowns, yards, pace, pretty much identical. The quarterback is once again an unknown commodity. Could be horrible, could be probably won't be great, but could be okay, but we don't know. And when you got McLaurin in the 5th round and then Jahan Dotson in the 8th, I kind of am on the boom side of Dotson, where I think that he could be Terry McLaurin from the years past, just in the 8th round, which at that point is an incredible value. That's something that I would love all the time. The problem with Terry McLaurin has always just been that he gets hyped up and you draft him pretty early. But if there's basically a Terry McLaurin in the 8th round, I like it. After he came back from the injury, Jahan Dotson, as a player on the field, watching him was very compelling. And I think that this Commanders team is going to be better than people give them credit for. I think that they've built a pretty solid cast that can actually support 2 wide receivers. I don't think either McLaurin or Dotson will be superstars, but will they be good in fantasy? Yes. And in the 8th round, I'm good with Dotson. What are your thoughts on Dotson?
I'm good with it, especially in the 8th round there, especially from what he showed us. In the games he did play, he had 41% of the total share of touchdowns last season. So he was getting the looks and he was creating opportunities for himself to score. And I feel like if you're looking for a guy in the 8th round, are you gonna? I would honestly take him over guys like Deontay Johnson and George Pickens right now, because I think we know the target share is going to be there and the opportunities are going to be there. And so I like Jahan Dotson, especially more than Terry McLaurin, because at the 8, kind of the turn between the 7th round and the 8th round there, between him and Treylon Burks, I feel like they're both well, if you swing and you miss, but you're not putting a lot of stock into these guys.
No. So Jahan Dotson, the last 5 games, that's when he was back and integrated the offense based on snap percentages, on pace for 1,100 yards, 10 touchdowns, and 119 targets. That in the 8th round is phenomenal. And guess what? Terry McLaurin on pace for 1,100 yards, 10 touchdowns, and 115 targets. Essentially identical. So I have not really been able to find an argument against Jahan Dotson apart from the quarterback situation. But in the 8th round, I don't care.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. You swing and you miss, and if you miss, it's okay. Well, I'm of the opinion that when it comes to these Commander wide receivers, because I have been burned many times in the past by Terry McLaurin. I am in the market of drafting players who aren't going to instantly make me frustrated with my team. And I think Jahan Dotson is kind of already playing second fiddle to Terry McLaurin. So you can't really get frustrated with his value. And
you're drafting him, he's going to be on your bench.
Yeah,
you'll be oh, he's certainly someone I can start, but you're drafting and he's going to be on your bench. So I'm glad we're both on the same page here. It's always nice to find someone else who likes Jahan Dotson.
Yes, hey man, you gotta pick your battles, and that's with Jahan Dotson. I'm backing him 100%.
The next one is, man, all these sophomore wide receivers are very talented with unknown commodity quarterbacks, I think. Christian Watson, 509 on sleeper leagues, which is right in that middle area with all those other wide receivers we talked about. He's one that I don't No. Everyone else I can be like, yeah, I'm in or I'm out. Christian Watson, his explosiveness is very compelling in fantasy. Jordan Love, when we saw him, was pretty good, I thought. And he targeted Christian Watson quite a bit. We saw Christian Watson have some good games with him. But now they're talking Romeo Doubs is going to be the 1 and Christian Watson is going to be the 2. It's very hard to make sense of the Green Bay Packers and to pull the trigger on their players in fantasy. However, it gets to a point where you start to go, if Jordan Love is good, everyone on the Packers is at a massive discount right now.
Yes.
Given that, I think I'm in on Watson because if I had to place a bet on do I think Jordan Love is good, I would probably say yes. I think he's way overhated. I think that the stuff with Aaron Rodgers has made him into kind of a meme, but I think he's going to be good. And at that point, Watson, 509, it's a steal. Even Aaron Jones would be a steal. So I want to hear your take on these Packers players.
With Christian Watson, I'm a little. I think he's good. I'm hesitant to take him at the end of the 5th round right there, mostly because you have guys like Jerry Jeudy there, and you have known commodities. However, if there is one of these like sophomore wide receivers who we look back and say, oh, we should have never doubted that this guy in his 2nd year was going to kind of blow up, like I feel like Christian Watson is probably in the conversation to have that title, because obviously, like, we saw flashes of Romeo Doubs, but Christian Watson, for what it was worth, was towards the end of the season being the most consistent kind of wide receiver 1 on that team. And they got to throw the ball. They've got to throw the ball once again. They got to throw the ball to somebody. You can only check down it to Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon so much, right? You gotta at some point throw it down the field. And they have a rookie tight end now with in Luke Musgrave, and with the exiting of Allen Lazard and Randall Cobb, like something's got to work. And I think Christian Watson at the 509, I'm not crazy about it, but like if you want to be aggressive in your leagues and you want to take risks, I think Christian Watson is a fine risk to take.
Yeah, he has league winner potential. Some of these other guys, I don't think Dotson has league winner potential. I think that he's a value. Christian Watson, though, I think could blow. I mean, he had weeks 10, 11, 12, 13. Those 4 weeks, he finished as a top 8 guy each week. Just seeing that explosiveness, that upside is rare in a rookie. And the situation was not great last year. It was a 1,300-yard pace. Touchdown pace was ridiculous of 30. That was his 17-game pace. So I don't think that's going to happen. But where you see a rookie wide receiver having that explosive touchdown upside, that's something that I find very interesting and something that I like to target in the middle rounds.
I mean, yeah, if you're looking for the upside of and trying to target guys that can on a daily basis, like you feel good about them finally breaking out and winning you. Like he is a guy that will win you weeks because he will just have crazy games where where Jordan Love might hit him for 2 touchdowns, like 2 bombs down the field, and you will win that week. And if you're looking for a guy who you can count on to be a little bit more volatile and win you those weeks, but sometimes still probably get a little burned by him, Christian Watson is probably the embodiment of that.
All right, so on sleeper drafts, it's Jerry Jeudy, Watson, Chris Godwin going back to back to back. How would you rank those 3?
Ooh, man, I've just talked myself so much into Jerry Jeudy this offseason.
That's fair. It's fair.
I think I'm going to go Jeudy, Watson, and Godwin, mostly because what is going on in Tampa Bay? Like we don't like what is happening down there. I'm not touching anything in the Tampa Bay offense with a 10-foot pole, maybe even a 20-foot pole. I'm staying far away. I'm
pretty much. I would flip Jeudy, Watson, put Watson, Jeudy, and then really way down here, Chris Godwin. But yes. the Jerry Jeudy, Christian Watson, then massive tier break. Yeah, there's a massive tier break. So the next sophomore, boomer bust potential, George Pickens. Very little to go off of last year. I mean, stat-wise, there just isn't a lot, but he was very impressive to watch. Once again, the quarterback, we don't really know exactly what's going to happen there. Do you believe that George Pickens is going to break out 800 yards, which is it's a solid rookie season, not a lot in the touchdown department, but now Deontay Johnson might be injured. What are your thoughts?
I think if Deontay Johnson is out from foreseeable time, especially at the 708 in the 7th round, like once again, like with Jahan Dotson, Treylon Burks, and George Pickens, you were taking guys in these 7th, 8th round that are kind of quietly commanding the wide receiver 1 volume in all 3 of their offenses, or will have a very good shot at becoming the wide receiver 1 in their offenses. From that standpoint, I think George Pickens is fine. However, I'm leaning towards bust on George Pickens. I'm just not bought in. I'm more of the mindset of I want to see more from him. The craziest stat is that there was only one Steelers wide receiver that scored a touchdown for them last year, and that was George Pickens. Like, I think eventually you gotta, like, if Deontay Johnson's fine, like you got to get him some looks. And I think whatever Matt Canada is doing with that offense, I'm just questioning every decision he makes. So I'm currently out on George Pickens. I think I would take Treylon Burks or Jahan Dotson over George Pickens right now, because I think they have a better chance to be that wide receiver 1 in their offense. And for him to be going just a little bit ahead of them, I think is kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, and it just came out 7 minutes ago that Deontay Johnson, it was related to heat is why he left, and they're not concerned injury-wise. So he's going to take a lot of the volume, and honestly, he's only going 1 pick earlier. Deontay Johnson is going 1 pick earlier than George Pickens. I would way rather take Deontay Johnson 707 than George Pickens 708, because Deontay Johnson, at least in PPR leagues, you'll be fine plugging him in and starting him. He'll get you a good baseline. Whereas George Pickens seems like each week is kind of boom or bust. He'll have some highlight reel plays, but it's not as reliable.
I mean, and that's so funny because I feel like you can look at any ranking and George Pickens and Deontay Johnson are always ranked just like right next to each other, because I feel like everyone is just like has this same sense of what do we do with them? Like we all don't know what to do with them, so might as well just stick them together and just kind of rank them as one and go from there.
And I think Pickett will be better than last season. He's going to throw more touchdowns, of course, but I don't think that it's super realistic to think that he's going to be able to support 2 startable fantasy assets. And I think that they will try their best to run the offense through Najee Harris and then also Jaylen Warren to kind of help out Pickett. And I think that there's a good chance both Deontay Johnson and George Pickens, neither of them are great fantasy-wise, but we might see kind of the same last year where Deontay saves it with volume.
And like that's probably why I'm taking Deontay Johnson over him. Volume is king. If Deontay Johnson gets 60 yards, but with 6 receptions on those 60 yards, and he gets you with 12 points, I'm thinking that's what I drafted you to do. Get me 12 to 14 points on a week, and I think he does that comfortably.
And it's almost weird. They're being drafted right next to each other, but the expectation is different. It's almost like you're expecting a breakout from Pickens, and it's almost to this weird if Pickens does what Deontay Johnson does, even though they're being drafted next to each other, it's going to feel like a bust because you're expecting this kind of, just based on some of the plays he made last year, you're expecting more. I think that really no matter what happens, you're going to be disappointed with Pickens.
I've not bought into the hype on Pickens, and that's why I'm sure he's going to be really good this year, but fantasy wise and just kind of like the narrative wise, I have not bought into it, and I'm kind of watching from afar.
Now the next one, Jameson Williams, he's another I got no clue what to make. I mean, extremely talented, but he hardly played last season. He's injured again, and then he's suspended because of the gambling. And then you also factor in Jahmyr Gibbs. They drafted 12th overall, who's a great pass catcher. And Amon-Ra St. Brown had the massive breakout season. He finished number 8 last year on sleeper leagues. He was a beast. I don't know if I I can get all in on Jameson Williams, but then I see he's going in the 10th round. I feel like it's worth the shot in the dark, you know?
And I think that's fair. I'm personally just not doing anything with Jameson Williams. Like if he's on the waiver wire come week 5 because someone like they just need to make a move, I will consider picking him up if he ever sometime makes his way to the waiver wire throughout the season. But Amon-Ra St. Brown is going to be your one in that offense. Jahmyr Gibb is going to command a decent amount of targets. They just traded for Denzel Mims, what really is Denzel Mims? We don't know because Zach Wilson was always the one throwing him the ball. And so like, we'll have to see there. They brought back Marvin Jones. They have
Montgomery's going to run it on the goal line too.
And they have a rookie tight end that will probably get a lot of feature as well. So it's just like, it's quietly a crowded offense, but also I'm intrigued by how like explosive this offense can be. And when he comes back, like I think he could be viable, like as a flex play. But I just can't stomach taking him in a draft right now.
Part of me also fears that it's going to be one of those, it happens every once in a while, like just circumstantially, an offense kind of moves on. You know, he's going to miss out on making his role in the offense. Amon-Ra St. Brown has established himself. Some of these other players are going to have a chance. That's where it's frustrating. These other players, Gibbs might have a chance to establish himself as a pretty big target share before Williams is even there, and then he's going to be scraping his way back to even be a player in this offense that's relevant. So as talented as he is, I fear that the offense is going to move on without him. And it will take a long time for him to really be something that you can trust in fantasy. And if he has one or two games where he breaks off a massive deep play, I don't care because there's no way I will have been starting him. I'll let someone else deal with that headache. It's Robbie Anderson.
Yes, there you go. It's just like frustrating that you probably will, like you're drafting him with the hope that he comes back in 6 weeks and is a viable flex play that you can put in there. But like you're not gonna play him until like you're not going to play him the first week he comes back. Like he's going to be one of the classic cases of, oh, he blew up last week, now I put him in, and then he's probably going to, like you said, cause more headaches than bring you success.
I mean, he will have been in the NFL 2 years, and coming into his week 7 start, he will have 1 reception. It was a good reception, 41 yards and a touchdown. It was 10 points of a reception, but I don't think I can do it.
Yeah,
I don't think I can do it. I'm on the bus side.
I agree.
All right, James Cook is next. We're switching the running backs. We got a few running backs, and then we'll wrap it up. James Cook, ADP of 805. I have been out on him, but I've kind of gotten in on it recently. Looking at just the efficiency and the fact that they haven't added a lot, I thought they might go get Dalvin Cook. That doesn't seem to be happening. Damian Harris and James Cook, yes, it's a tandem, but 805, I'm not expecting my running back to be a bell cow. And when I look at 5.3 yards a carry, 6.3 yards per touch, he led the league with a 12.1 breakaway run rate. The efficiency and explosiveness, I'm a big fan of. And in the 8th round, I'm willing to take a shot on it, even if I don't think he's going to get the ball 20 times a game. So I am. It's
so. I want to say boom as well. So badly I want to, but I just know I can't. But I mean I don't mind drafting him in the 8th, especially with kind of how the running back landscape is right now. I think that's probably in the 7 to 10 range is where you start to like take shots on like a couple of these guys, like between like him and the guy we'll talk about here in a second, and Isaiah Pacheco, and kind of like the tandem of DeAndre Swift and Rashad Penny and Demont in Detroit. Like I feel like you're starting to get into that area where you're hoping that they can be a serviceable running back too, but like they're not for sure to be known. But like taking a shot like James Cook, I feel confident about that in the 8th round.
For me, in the 8th round, you've got James Cook, AJ Dillon, and Antonio Gibson. Those are the 3 running backs. And I think Gibson and AJ Dillon are safer. But in the 8th round, I'm not looking for a starting running back. I'm looking for someone who's going to sit on the bench and might have some explosive upside later on. I think James Cook fits that bill. I don't think it's like, oh, he has a nice floor. No, he's not going to have a nice floor. But
I think the
explosiveness is nice.
It is nice, and I think that we'll see kind of a switch this year with the Buffalo offense, mostly because their GM has come out publicly and just kind of said, we need to run the ball more so that Josh Allen doesn't run it himself and gets hurt, So I feel like that is going to be a big part of it. And if they do start to implement kind of some of this passing game work into their offense for the running back position, James Cook is going to be the first one over Damian Harris to get that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm on the James Cook hype train.
Yes,
it's official.
Official. I will join you.
Welcome aboard.
I'll join you in maybe a week or 2. Give me a second. Let me make sure that I make sure my ticket's okay, and I gotta check out everything, and then maybe I'll jump on.
Now the next one, 703, going a bit earlier, Isaiah Pacheco. And I'll tell you right now, I'm out. It's a bust because one of my least favorite players, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, is back, apparently, taking first-team reps. Jerick McKinnon is still there, correct?
Yes, they signed Jerick McKinnon to another 1-year deal, and I just there's no there really is why I'm also out on Isaiah Pacheco. There's really no receiving work for him to have because there just is 2 better options in Jerick McKinnon, and Clyde Edwards-Helaire might not be a great runner, but he has always worked very well in that passing game for the Chiefs, especially within the red zone. So yeah, I can't do it, man. He was very touchdown dependent, I feel like, in his games where he became a very viable starter last year down the stretch. And if I just don't want, especially in the 7th round, I don't want to draft a touchdown dependent running back.
Yeah, who has so much to compete with, and on a team that it's not like this team has a historical precedence. A long time ago, they might have of using a one guy, but they've shown over the past several years they have no problem with every week someone else gets the work. So I can't do it.
There's too much uncertainty with that. Of course, you feel like you'd want a piece of the Patrick Mahomes offense, but Patrick Mahomes just throws it basketball style to Jerick McKinnon anyway. So it's it's a crapshoot. And if there's a guy who doesn't already get the ball thrown to him by Patrick Mahomes, I don't want him.
Yeah, it's going to be Mahomes, Kelsey, and then a headache.
Yes.
Now the next one, Dameon Pierce, breakout last year, super fun to watch, but a lot of his real fantasy production, the value was from the incredible volume he saw. 73% opportunity share, 6 out of all running backs. He was a true workhorse running back last season. He wasn't that efficient or that special. I mean, he runs tough. He's, I think, a good running back, but I'm looking at the new regime of coaching. They bring in Devin Singletary, who I don't think is a superstar, but he will be involved. In the 5th round, I myself am finding it hard to get excited about Dameon Pierce. I think it could sadly be another of those running backs that we see have the big unforeseen rookie season like Phillip Lindsay, and then it just fades because the team is not committed to him. So I'm out on Dameon Pierce.
And I think I think I'm also leaning towards being out on him just because of the kind of known commodities that you can get around him. I think I'd rather have a J.K. Dobbins or a Miles Sanders.
Yes.
Or even if Dalvin Cook signs somewhere, I think I'd take those guys over Dameon Pierce right now. I don't think, and it's not because I think Devin Singletary is going to really command a lot of the workload that Dameon Pierce had last season. But CJ Stroud is just I don't know what he is. I don't know what that offense kind of looks like.
Yeah.
So I think if you're looking for a guy that like volume alone, I feel like it works, but it's just like in the 5th round, man, I just can't do it.
I just worry if Singletary takes really any of it, because he was seeing games where he was like in the 70-80% snap range. He had 31 opportunities a game. If that goes down at all, he wasn't efficient enough for the fantasy value to stay. And if there's CJ Stroud who likes to run, is a much better passer, I think we're going to see fewer runs that way too.
Yeah, I mean, interesting, like Dameon Pierce or Cam Akers.
I am going to get killed for this. I love Cam Akers. I love Cam Akers.
I think I agree with you there. Like, I think between the two, I think what we saw from Cam Akers down the stretch last season is way more enticing than Dameon Pierce. And Dameon Pierce right now, I think, is like the running back 18. Cam Akers is running back 23. Like, I'd rather take a tight end or a upside wide receiver at that in the 5th round and come back and get Cam Akers on kind of a discount.
Yeah, Cam Akers last 6 games, 4.9 yards an attempt, 1,400-yard pace, 17 touchdown pace. People are going to regret not being in on him. And the lack of production early in season, there's such a good excuse for it that he still wasn't back from the Achilles. So no, I'm all in on Cam Akers. And when you've got someone like that or Miles Sanders after Dameon Pierce, I can't do it.
Yeah, I just like there are better options. Like even like James Conner, who is like running back 25. Like sometimes you just have to take players who are good, like that have shown us that they're good, but like both in fantasy and not. And like James Conner, I think, is a better option than Dameon Pierce is.
Yeah, I'm looking at all the players going after him, and I can't. There's no way I'm drafting Dameon Pierce.
There's better options. Like even if you want to take the chance on a guy that probably has even better upside than Dameon Pierce, like Javonte Williams is running back 27.
Yeah,
like, there are so many better options down the board, I think, than taking Dameon Pierce in the 5th round.
You got Dobbins, Sanders, all those guys I like more. Yeah. Well, the next one, we've got 2 left. And these two are where it gets a little ugly. Brian Robinson going 903 on sleeper platforms. He was shot last season and got off to a slow start because of that. So you got to give him a pass. But he never was incredible, but it got better during the season. But now they say, oh, well, we're going to finally use Antonio Gibson, right? What do you make of this? In the 9th round, I'm fine with that draft price, but do you think that he actually has much upside? Because that's where I just don't know if he's going to be someone who's gonna have upside. I mean, he didn't have any breakaway runs really last year. He had 1-2 runs over 20 yards. I can't get excited about that sort of player on this offense.
It's always very frustrating, especially when you have like a running back by committee that you'll see with the Commanders this year with Antonio Gibson. And for what it's worth, I don't know exactly if I buy into Antonio Gibson being back, because I feel like that's what we hear every single year. And I feel like at this point, it's just like they're just churning the narrative back out for no reason. Ron Rivera just is like, I'll just say it again because, like, I don't know.
They like copy and paste the same text to the media each year. Or something.
Yeah, there you go. But yeah, Brian Robinson is, I mean, in the 9th round, like, he's fine.
Yeah,
but I'm still gonna call him a bust because, like, I don't think he's gonna have the running back. Like, he's not going to be an RB2. I think he has the potential to kind of be a flex, like an interesting flex from week to week. And that's kind of what you're getting in the 9th round, but definitely I'm leaning towards bust.
For me, you got Gibson and Robinson going right next to each other pretty much. I think because no one really knows what to do with
Another
them.
one. It's just like, let's just group them together.
For me, it's just like, if it's a tandem situation in an unknown offense, I'm going to go with the one who has more receiving upside. That's just how I play fantasy football.
Especially, I mean, with PPR, like, and everything like that, volume is king. And if you're getting the reception volume, I'd rather take that running back than the one who isn't getting the volume.
And what if they actually do use Gibson like McCaffrey? What if they actually do what they're going to say?
I don't know.
Then Brian Robinson's nothing.
Yeah, maybe this is finally the year. The next Christian McCaffrey is here. It's Antonio Gibson for the third or fourth time. Now, actually, he just needed some time to warm up, Yeah, but bro's gonna start cooking
once they switch him to his actual position.
Yeah.
Now the final one. So I think we were both on bust there. Here we go with Tyler Algier. I have a slightly controversial take, and that is that I think Tyler Algier will be more involved than people expect in this offense. I don't think it will be super fantasy relevant. I mean, in the 11th round, there aren't really any fantasy relevant running backs. I'd probably take the upside shot at someone like Kendre Miller or Tank Bigsby or even Jalen Warren, who's a handcuff. But I think Algier is going to touch the ball more than people expect. He was really good last season. He was a very good running back. 1,000 yards, had not a lot of touchdowns, but do you think that he's completely out of the picture?
It's hard to say no, right?
Yeah.
Like, you don't draft Bijan Robinson to make this a running back by committee. And if there is any opportunity, like in the receiving game, like Cordell Patterson is also still just hanging around. And I still think they want very much to get Cordell Patterson involved. And then of course you're going to run the offense through Bijan. So it just feels like there's not a lot of opportunity for him. But
it just breaks my heart. It breaks my heart
because he was good. He was a very pleasant surprise last year. And they're like, okay, we have a good running back, but now let's take an even better running back so Art Smith can just recreate the Tennessee Titans down in Atlanta. And that seems like what he's doing.
I just hate to see, 4.9 a carry came out of nowhere. And just the idea of him not like being a player that's rostered just is crazy to me. But I think you're right. But just for my personal like feelings, I'm gonna say boom.
Oh, there you go. I think I have to say bust, except if I take Bijan Robinson, then I'm gonna take him as a handcuff, and that's really the only reality I see myself taking him in.
In that 11th, do you like? Man, it's a 11th round running back. They're kind of some guys I like. It's kind of crazy. Tyler Algier or Elijah Mitchell or Devin Singletary. Those are going back to back to back.
I'm taking Elijah.
Ranking.
I'm taking Elijah Mitchell because despite Christian McCaffrey being there, Kyle Shanahan just like doesn't care about your fantasy team. Elijah Mitchell's still going to get touches this season. I mean, he was actually the better running back as far as the command of the backfield. He was getting the more opportunities down the stretch when he came back with working with Christian McCaffrey. And I don't think that's going to really change. Now, the quarterback situation very up in the air. If it is Brock Purdy, I think that's better for Elijah Mitchell. If it is Trey Lance, I think that's worse for him. But I think out of those three guys, Elijah Mitchell easily is going to get the most volume. Yeah.
No, I see that too. I think Devin Singletary is worth rostering as well.
Yeah, definitely.
That offense is confusing to me, or not confusing. I just like don't know really what to expect. But he's someone that I could see just being way more involved than people expect.
Yeah, and I think like we are overvaluing like some players, like Dameon Pierce, I think is being overvalued, but then a guy like Dalton Schultz is being severely undervalued just because he is on the Texans. And like, especially, I think Dameon Pierce is that running back, is the workhorse running back, and Devin Singletary is going to get most of the kind of the reception volume.
No, I agree with that. Well, there we go. That's all the sophomores that I wrote down. I think that's pretty much all of them, or at least the ones that are fantasy
The important
relevant.
ones.
I mean, if we got to Algier, we didn't miss anyone important.
There you go.
So, without further ado, everyone, thank you so much for listening. And thank you, JT, for coming on as co-host. This was a lot of fun, a lot more fun than sitting in a closet by myself yelling about Travis Etienne. So
there you go, man.
I hope you all like it. I think that you will. And yeah, we will see you all next time.